Hey y'all, it's Pastor Chris here. So, on my way over to the office this morning, I was listening to NPR, as I usually do, and they had the BBC channel on, and they were talking about the Israel-Gaza conflict. And they were talking about the hostages that had just been released that were deceased, and the outrage over that incident. And this was a family of four. I think it was a husband and a wife, and then two small children that were killed. And there's conflicting claims as to how they were killed. Hamas claims that they were killed in an Israeli bombardment, and Israel claims, due to forensic evidence, that that is not true, it's lies, and that they were brutally murdered. So I have avoided weighing in on this for some time because this is an extremely touchy subject. I know that a lot of people just put up walls when you try to talk about this conflict and are kind of set in what they believe. But it does seem to me, and this is not condoning Hamas's violence at all or suggesting in any way that Israel is responsible for the war. That's not what this is. But it does seem to me that there are clear human rights abuses by the Israeli government, not by Jewish people, by the Israeli government. They are continuing to create settlements in Palestinian land that are illegal according to international law. And this has a lot of Palestinians frustrated. There's a lot of animosity towards the Palestinian people by the Israeli government. John Oliver did an excellent segment on this issue where he was able to pull in a lot of different interviews from the region and get a lot of video footage of the conditions under which the Palestinians are living in a land that they've lived in for hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years, but are now being treated as second-class citizens. So you can maybe understand the frustration and the anger that those people have and how they might turn to an organization that uses violence in the name of liberty. Now, one of the things that I realized a while ago is that one person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter. These are just labels. We can call people whatever we want. And I think when we call somebody a terrorist, it allows us to easily dehumanize them and just turn them into a monster. All they care about is making people scared. That's why they're doing this. But all acts of terrorism are generally not unprovoked. They are a response to something. I'm not saying they're a response to physical violence, but they are a response to some sort of hardship or some sort of perceived slight. I'm not saying that makes them right. I'm not. Please hear me. Please don't take my words out of context. I'm not saying that makes it right. But what I'm saying is that we should not try to reduce all of this down to that's just an act of terrorism. We would be a lot better off if we sought to understand why people are acting out the way that they are. Because at the end of the day, we are all humans, and we all generally have the same wants, the same needs, the same desires, and the same dreams of freedom and self-governance. So to tell you the truth, when Hamas says that this family was killed by Israeli bombardment and Israel says this family was killed by Hamas in cold blood, I don't know who to believe. I have every inclination to believe that Israel could have doctored the forensic report. I also could believe that Hamas is just straight up lying. How do I know who to believe? They both have reasons to lie. And they have both shown a willingness to lie to advance their agenda. So, again, I don't condone the violence, but I do support a more nuanced approach to trying to understand Israeli-Palestinian relations. I do support a two-state solution. I think that there needs to be some way that the two people can share the land and be equal citizens on their own land. Israel obviously has a claim to the land, so do the Palestinians. They've lived there for a really long time. If you want to talk about who the original owners of the land were, that would be the Canaanites. Okay, Israel also took the land from the Canaanites. That's biblical. A lot of people will say, well, God gave them the land, so they deserve it. But when we're talking about geopolitical issues, we really, really need to try to keep religion out of it, because people have different faiths and people have different understandings of their religion. I, for example, as I've said in one of my other videos, believe that the Bible was written by human beings, a people group who worshiped God, who were trying to have a relationship with God, but nevertheless also had their own interests. So I do not believe that God sanctioned the genocide of the Canaanites. I don't believe that. I believe that that was written from the perspective of the Israelites who were going in to take this land. And that was a very common thing back then. People invaded and took land for themselves. It was very common. It happened all the time. And they often would invoke the name of their God to do that. But that doesn't mean, I think, that God desires the destruction or the deportation of the Palestinians so that Israel can have all of the land now, today. I think God cares about all people. That's my faith. God cares about all people, Israelis and Palestinians and everybody else. So, at the very least, Palestinians need representation in the country in which they live, and they need to not be treated like second-class citizens. But I do support a two-state solution. Last year, for a sermon, I did do a lot of historical research on the region to try for myself to better understand what was going on and how we got here, and to also then present that to my congregation. And I'm going to try to find the video of that so that I can post that separately in case you're interested. But the information is out there. I encourage everybody to do your own research as to how we all got to this situation in that particular region. But it is a lot less black and white than most people think. So that's going to be all for me. I hope this wasn't surprising for you. You know me. I love everybody. I desire reconciliation for all. And I want us all to be able to live together in harmony and to share with one another, and for everybody to have what they need to thrive. And that is not the situation right now in Israel-Palestine. And that's what I desire, and I believe that that is what God desires as well. So I love you all. Take care. Have a great weekend. Join us again on Sunday for church if you're able to. Hopefully the snow won't keep us closed in person this time, but we will still be able to get out online regardless. So take care, and I will see you in the next video.